happens is what is stress for somebody else is not stress for me. The most important thing for people to understand is this: what is stress for me? What really genuinely tires me out and makes me feel stressed? Very often we don't understand that. Stress is generally not physical, okay? Stress is never about, oh my God, my legs are hurting because I was standing all day, I was working. It's not that. It's always going to be emotional and mental.
So entrepreneurship really thrives in an ecosystem where risk is the new normal. And especially when we consider our micro ecosystems, which is our spouses, our partners, our family, who actually bear the burden of us trying to achieve our dream. So from that perspective, how do you think we can make risk taking the new normal, or at least, open people's mind to start accepting it?
Great. Whenever you talk about risk, here's the point. I used to consider myself to be a very risk averse person. I was like, oh my God, no, 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 I don't want to do this because I come from a family where I'd seen my dad take a lot of business risks and they didn't work out right for him. So I came from that mindset. And I also realized that things such as risk and fear are very emotionally ingrained and emotionally built into us, right? So I came from a family where I did not take any kind of risks. I thought I was very risk averse. And then a few months ago, I was speaking to this person at this podcast, and she said, Mansi, you're one of the coolest risk takers I know. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? I take no risks. She's like, you know what, Mansi? You came into Nepal, new country, didn't speak the language, didn't know anybody, got married here, started doing a job, hated the job, left the job, went ahead, became a photographer, worked for 6 years, worked for coffee table books with the royal family, did all of that, and then decided, blah, I don't care. Now I want to go and be a corporate trainer. Been working on that for the last 13 years. You've taken so many risks in your life. And then I'm like, oh my God, yeah, all of these sound like completely erratic, crazy things that nobody else would ever do. I have been quite a risk taker in my life. And then I realized risk taking is not just about financial risk taking. There are many categories and subcategories to risk taking. There's mental risk taking, there's emotional risk taking, there's social risk taking, there's physical risk taking, there's financial risk taking. Let's go through each one of these one by one. I think I'm a champion mental risk taker. The moment somebody tells me, here's a new task, if that task looks moderately appealing to me, I'm going to jump ahead and go and do it. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to try and put in whatever I can to jump to be able to sort of make that happen for me. Financial risks, 0%. But when we understand risk, we think about only financial risks, okay? Guys, here's the point. Risk taking also is like a muscle. You need to sort of develop it. You need to sort of understand and develop it over time. Having said that, certain people like me are more prone to certain kinds of risk taking. I would not bungee jump. I would not do that. For me, a physical risk is not something that's worth my time. It's not worth my pain, worth my effort. Social risk, absolutely. I would go ahead and have that strange conversation. I would go ahead and approach that person for an interview, for whatever it is. I would go ahead, and even if I knew nothing about, let's say, the Pythagoras theorem, I would still want to figure out a complicated theory in order to learn something, in order to contribute in some way. Mental risks, social risks, emotional risks, I'm willing to take. Financial, physical risks, I'm not willing to take. What I feel is that for any kind of physical risk to harm and like risk and harm to body and mind and limb, for any kind of physical risks, you always have to have a harness. We know this, okay? This is something that the external world is working out for us. For financial risks, that has to start with government policies. That has to start in a different way. We talk about these micro ecosystems. The ecosystems that are currently being built around startups all over the world are helping us in a lot of ways against these financial risks that we're taking. But truly, what helps people jump to the next level is always going to be mental and social risks, guys. Let's understand that. And those mental and social risks start with us. Mental risks are always things that are happening in your mind. Can I learn this new thing? This is a big risk I'm taking. I'm taking that risk with my name, with my goodwill. Is that going to work, right? So I think for mental, social, emotional risks, we got to work on ourselves and our partners and the closest people around us that are going to push us to do better. For financial risks, it's always going to be policy level. It's going to be on a different level, or within your ecosystem on entrepreneurs, organizations like this, which help you understand and navigate through those risks, the social contacts that you build up. For physical risks, well, you need a harness. It's as simple as that.
Fantastic, Mansi. And I think in a subtle way, we have been so far able to touch various aspects of life.
That being an entrepreneur, there will be downtimes and business setbacks. So, any practical tips and that how quicker can we come out of that phase? Because the longer we are in that zone, the more we personally and the business. So, any tips that how quicker can we recover?
Sure. Uh, the biggest thing, and perhaps the most important thing, was a part of your question itself. There will be setbacks. The moment we understand this, the moment we are aware of this, the moment we're sure there's going to be setbacks, we've already sort of mentally buffered ourselves a bit. The moment you're like, hi, Ram, what just happened with me? Because you were never expecting a setback in your life, that's when it's going to hit you all that much more. The moment you know that, okay, you know what, setbacks are a part of this game. I'm in this for the long haul, setbacks will happen. The moment you understand that, you just accept it a lot better. Having said that, it's still difficult to accept a setback. It's still painful. Sometimes it's about public. It's about what will people think? Log kya kahenge? What will the world think about me? What will my wife think about me? What will my family say? What will my employees say? What will my team say? What will my vendors say? It is a lot of all of that. But here's what we need to understand. Even entrepreneurship is like a muscle. It needs to be developed. Even whatever you're doing needs to be developed, needs to grow. I think what really, really helps in a situation where I'm personally or a lot of my clients are thinking negative, I give them a very simple 5 question framework, and I'm going to share that with you. It's a simple 5 question framework that really helps. I feel a lot of the times your brain, we talk about negative thoughts, but what are negative thoughts? Negative thoughts are just like this chain of thoughts that's happening in your brain. One is negative, the other one that gets looped into it by default will be negative, and the one that's going to come after will be negative, right? So you've got like this huge chain of negative thoughts that's happening in your brain. What is the only way out of it is to think positive. But how the hell do you think positive at that point when everything's going wrong? How do you suddenly plant a positive thought in your head? The only way to do this is through self talk, and not just self talk, asking yourself the right questions. At a point when you are stuck in a negative chain of thoughts, the only thing that's going to help to break that negative chain of thoughts is asking yourself the right set of questions. Because when you ask questions, you are understanding and you are accepting of the fact that there might be a different point of view. There is an opportunity to look at it from a different perspective, right? Let me give you an example that I always give people. Slightly off topic, yet I know you'll understand what it is. Much easier if I say this. So, what happened is I was traveling around Europe alone, not alone, with my best friend. This was in 2019. We landed in Barcelona, 2 girls ready to take on the world, and we were super excited. And a gang of 5 people followed us, and we were robbed at the airport. Okay. Now, by robbed, I don't just mean pickpocketed. I mean, it was like a proper full on robbery, the kind of stuff that they show in Johnny Depp films. Okay. And we felt extremely violated. And I was extremely scared because 3 things. Number one, my passport was gone. Number two, my phone was gone. Number three, a bit of money was gone. Now, can you imagine you've landed in this country for the first time in your life? You're traveling, you've got 12 days of bookings ahead of you in Portugal and things like that, and you suddenly don't have a passport. I called up my mom, and my mom gives me typical mom advice: Beta, think positive. And at that point, I wanted to scream at her. I'm sitting on the road in Barcelona without a passport, feeling like an illegal immigrant, and you're telling me think positive. What the hell, right? At that point, I wanted to scream at my mom. Think positive is the worst piece of advice you can give somebody in a time like that. But then I realized that I have absolutely nothing to lose anymore. I have nothing to work with. I only have the power of my mind. So I started asking myself a certain set of questions. Through time, through experience, I managed to sort of perfect these questions. And now this is my go to rule. Number one, what can I do in the present moment that's going to make me feel slightly better? When there's a chain of negative thoughts, it's like a train going downhill without a brake at the highest speed possible, right? At that point, the only thing you need to do, the first thing you need to do is get some kind of break, get that break from happening, get something to stop you from thinking in that particular way. So, my first thought was, what can I do to feel good in this moment when you're going through a setback at that immediate point in your business? First question, what can I do to feel good in this moment? The answer my brain gave me was, eat chocolate, do something, do anything to calm down. Because I was sitting in a police thana in Spain. People are speaking in two different languages, neither of which I understand, Spanish and Catalan. And I'm like, what the hell? Ate chocolate, calmed me down a bit because I know that works with me. I'm a binge eater, I'm a stress eater. Worked. So now that the train was going like this, there's some sort of a break. It has stopped here, yet it's still in the wrong direction, right? Yet I'm still thinking negative, but that flurry of emotions that comes with an immediate setback, that has stopped for now. Next, what am I still grateful for? The moment you start focusing on gratitude, your brain will stop thinking negative. You will find something you're grateful for. And my brain tells me, passport's gone, but you're in Barcelona, man. Be grateful for that. You're still in a beautiful city. Be grateful for that. You might have had a setback in your business, but you know what? At least you learned this. You know what? At least you managed to create an uproar on social media. You know what? At least you managed to get that. At least you knew who to work with, at least whatever it is. So, number two, always figure out what you're grateful for. And the moment you do that, now your train has shifted the track. It's not going downhill anymore. It already had a break, but now it's shifted and it might to pick up the other track. Now, for it to go onto the right track, the third question I ask myself, and this is my favorite question, my most interesting question is, if my younger sister was in the same place with me, what advice would I give her? If my daughter, if my younger sister, if my niece, if my mom was in the same situation as me, what advice would I give her? I don't say, what should I do now? Because if you ask your brain, what should I do now? Your brain is going to manipulate you and give you the worst answers in the world. Ja, mar ja. तू तो worthless है. You know, your brain is always going to dramatize it for you because at that point it feels too big to you. Your scenario is all that's happening in your head, right? It feels way too big for you. But the moment you can come out of your body and ask that question on behalf of somebody else. If my younger sister was in this situation and she was lost in Barcelona, what would I tell her to do? I would tell her, go speak to the consular, go to the embassy, get a travel document, come back home, be safe, right? But if what should I do? क्या करोगे अब सब खत्म हो जाएगा, right? Your brain is going to dramatize this entire scenario for you. So the third question you ask yourself is, if instead of me, somebody I love, somebody younger than me, somebody I care about was in this setback situation, what advice would I give them? That is the perspective of looking at it, because you're not dramatizing it at that point. You're using logic rather than emotion at that point. Make a list of things that need to be done. Next, who can help me to do these things that I need to do now? If my younger sister was in this situation, these were the three things I would tell her to do. Who's going to help me to do this? How can I do these in the best way? Do whatever it takes, come out of that situation, and then make a list, and a true inventory list of what you learned in that situation, because that's going to be a blueprint for you as you go ahead. Sometimes you just learn that maybe you're not cut out for this. Sometimes you just learn that, you know what, everything was right, my team was not right. No matter what it is, write down your lessons, club your lessons into maybe social learnings, mental learnings, financial learnings, legal learnings, whatever it is. Make these different inventories, keep that journal with you. You don't have to share it with anybody at all. Keep that with you, and that serves as a blueprint, as a Bible for you to take forward as you go ahead next time.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all for joining us today. Saurabh, Harsh, Avinash, Komal, and Maansi. It was such an insightful talk, and we hope it will help our audience out there too.
Thank you.